I bought not one, but two 997 turbos. One of them's crashed and one of them, well, it's just the body. And I had the bright idea to swap everything from the crashed one to the non-crashed one. Seems like a good idea, at least. Buying a crashed 997 turbo with the intent of swapping everything to a non-crashed 997 turbo sounded like a good idea, but it certainly is a lot of work. Even if I am a little bit over my head with the 997 turbo project, at least I got it for a good price. It came with a ton of parts, and oh, by the way, it came with a spare chassis, as you guys already know. And I made good progress on the chassis swap so far. You know, we've got this whatever, that's not a good looking weld there, and yeah, just some otherwise not good looking stuff going on this corner. So now it's on to the next part of this build, which is maybe even more challenging. To be honest, I really don't know where to begin here. As far as me and the rest of the internet is concerned, the next thing I need to do on this swap is the wiring harness. And to get to said wiring harness, I need to gut the entire interior. There's a lot of wiring here, boys. And honestly, I wanted to save the interior swap for last. But it's looking like that is not going to happen. Luckily, I don't have a windshield here, so it's going to make getting everything off up here a lot easier. I'm just not sure where to start. Probably the center console area with the radio and the climate control and all that stuff, maybe the glove box, and then see what I can find underneath. If it's anything like this lower dash panel, there were a ton of bolts in there. A ton. I'm certain it's going to be even way more on the dash. So that being said, let's grab some Ziploc bags, a Sharpie, some tools, and get to work. I figured I would start with something easy, and the glove box seemed, well, like something easy. After removing the cup holders and removing a panel underneath the glove box, it was just a matter of removing a whole bunch of torque screws all around. Obviously, most of them hidden behind panels. But once those were removed, the glove box pretty much slides right out. Unplug some connectors, that job's done. It's a lot of parts already. Throughout this interior removal, I was trying my best to stay organized and keep nuts and bolts with their respective parts, either put them back where they were or put them in a labeled Ziploc bag. And I wanted to put the bolts for the glove box in the glove box, but there was a screw that wedged itself in there, and I had to pull that out with a magnet to be able to get the glove box to shut. Inevitably, some things will be lost, though. Now, swapping from the gray/orange car to the yellow car, as you guys know, it has 150,000 miles on it. So today I'm going to put in some Techron Complete Fuel System Cleaner, who is the sponsor of today's video. And all you have to do with Techron is wait until your gas tank is nearly empty. And whenever you go to fill up your gas tank, add in the Techron, then fill your gas tank the whole way up, and you're done. And Techron is designed to clean and protect vehicles with regular use. They recommend every season to run this in your vehicle. It cleans and protects against corrosion, helps restore power and performance by removing gum, varnishes, and other fuel system deposits. It also maximizes fuel economy. You can get your Techron at Walmart, Amazon, as well as most auto retailers like AutoZone, O'Reilly, Advanced Auto Parts, etc. Learn more at chevronlubricants.com. Big thank you for Techron for sponsoring this video and for helping to protect and clean out the fuel system on my 150,000 mile Porsche 911 Turbo. All right, back to the gray car now. Where were we? Oh yeah, trying to get this pesky dash out of the way. You're supposed to be able to rotate some knobs on either side of the stereo, and it's just supposed to kind of come out. But either mine were broken and it seemed like some were missing, so I ended up having to push in some little tabs with a screwdriver. Still, it's relatively pretty easy to get that out of there. The rest was super simple. And the winner for my second ever giveaway, the winner is Gabriel Acosta. And if I say your name wrong, I'm sorry. He is from Evanston, Illinois, and he won with a $25 996 Side U t-shirt. So congrats. I'm sending you an email the day that this video goes live, so check your spam, and congratulations to you. Oh, by the way, there's a whole bunch of new shirts on the website. Should maybe check them out. Check them out if you want. If not, yeah, no big deal. Let's get this pesky steering wheel off here, shall we? And in no particular order, next up are the vents. And they come out in a pretty peculiar way. You see, each vent has a very small tab at the top that's only about the size of a pick, so you have to get 2 picks in there and pry down as you pull the vent out. Otherwise, they come out pretty easily. After the vents came the steering column covers, followed by the gauge cluster. With all those pieces removed, I should be able to find all the remaining hidden screws for the dash so we can actually pull the whole dash out of the way. Should be able to. Keyword. After disconnecting some speakers, finding some more and more hidden bolts and screws for the dash, it was still stuck. It was still tight, so I moved on and figured the airbag probably isn't helping the situation. That's out, and it didn't explode, so that's always good. Finally, some movement in the dash, but it was still tight. So I did what any wise millennial would do, and I posted to social media. And with that, and the wonderful help of Boris Kidziora, again, not great with pronouncing names, he actually sent me the manual, and here I found some hidden screws. They were underneath these caps in the dash, which I didn't realize were caps containing more bolts. So now that I know why the dash is still tight, maybe, just maybe, when I remove these, I can get it out of the way. The amount of parts that I have over here is a little overwhelming, but the dash pad is out. Everything's labeled. I think the next thing to do is to, well, pull more parts out. Probably starting with the dash bar. All things considered, the dash wasn't too hard to get out. You can see there were some hidden bolts behind the center vent, those hidden bolts up top like I told you guys about. Really, other than that, pretty straightforward. So now, moving on to the dash bar and the wiring harness. I also took my time to label a bunch of the connections so I at least have a general idea of how the wiring harness lays back in underneath the dash. There is a lot of wiring, a lot of connections, and a lot of just everything. So now I have to figure out how to get the dash bar out of there. Really? Drop the first bolt. And I dropped the second bolt. Now it seemed as though I had the whole dash bar unbolted everywhere that I could see, but you'll see later in the video there were some tricky bolts that were related to the dash bar that I wouldn't have thought of. But in the meantime, I put those little aluminum mounts back on the dash bar because they didn't need to be removed in the first place. Even after countless wiggling, countless putting your camera in front of your other camera shots, and countless tapping on the roof of the car, I came to this conclusion. Not exactly sure how to get that bar out of there, so I'm going to clean up. Alright. Enough with the cleaning. While I took a break from the dash bar, I decided it was time to pull out the carpet and get access to all the wiring underneath. This all went pretty smoothly because this is extremely similar to 996 carpet and how it's attached, and I just happened to replace my 996 carpet a few months back. Well, so we've done it. This thing is looking a lot less like a car these days. Alright, back to the task at hand, removing the main wire harness. And here's the manual for it. And my goodness, look at how many steps there are, how many pages there are, how many diagrams. It just keeps going and going and going. And holy crap, look at this thing. This is a behemoth of a wire harness. This isn't even all of them. There are more. This is fun. This is great. Everything's fine. So that leaves us here with a whole bunch of parts scattered throughout the garage and an interior missing, carpet laying on top of an engine, interior completely dismantled and wiring harness sort of coming out. At least everything's labeled and ready to move on to the next step. Now with all that out of the way, I want to move to the front of the car under the hood, because that whole wiring harness that is across the dash and under the floor and all that leads to that. And it splits off on either side, goes to both fenders, goes to a whole bunch of different things up there. So I think that's next. Traced each side of the wiring harness, which leads through each fender wells and goes to different sensors in there. So the logical thing to do was to follow that and start tearing the front end apart, which I didn't want to have to do yet. Getting this driver's side headlight out took longer than expected. 1, I don't have the tool, and 2, I read the wrong directions, and 3, I actually ended up spinning the adjuster screws rather than the removal screws. So I'm sure that headlight will be out of whack whenever it comes time to finally power this thing up, but the passenger side went smooth. The only thing holding the front bumper on was actually the tow hook, so once that was removed and I disconnected some wiring, that pulled right off. There's a little plastic shield between the fender and the door with push pins that you have to get out to be able to access the bolts necessary to get the fender off. But once we got that out, pushed the wiring harness up through, got the windshield washer fluid out of there, fender was able to be removed. It seemed like I had nearly all the wiring disconnected under the hood, so I went back under the dash and realized I had to disconnect the brake pedal and the clutch pedal. With those disconnected, it was time to work on the heater box and all the connections and bolts holding that to the firewall, the coolant hoses, the AC lines. Obviously, the AC lines had already been drained prior to me even getting this car. And after doing all that, I realized more wiring ran down towards the front of the car that went to the CD changer and another electrical box down there. And with that stuff disconnected, we should be good to go. Harness is fully disconnected at the front end. Everything's off. I got the one fender off, both headlights out, hood off. Headlights, actually, I have a separate project for them. They're going to get some upgrades. But now I need to move back into the car and figure out how to get that whole harness pulled through and fully removed. Yep, still won't move. Oh, this sucks so bad. Aha! Yes! Come on now. Oh! It's loose! It's free! It's almost out! The only thing holding the dash bar in now were some wires that were attached to it in various places. What had been holding it in was actually friction of the studs that go through the firewall near where the brake booster is. Oh! Nope, we got one there. There. We three. What a mess. Oh my God. Should be fun getting out. That was fun. It was a great time. Now, I think I'm about 15 minutes away from getting the wiring harness completely out of there. And with the wiring harness almost the whole way through, I could get that heater box out of the way and out of the car. Of course, I managed to find just a few more wires hidden under the hood that needed to be undone, disconnected, and moved to get all the way through the firewall. Of course, thought I had everything out. Still gotta do a little bit of the headliner. That was enough work for one day for me. I was exhausted. So, on to the next day. Well, I have made an absolute mountain of a mess. The mess is rather out of control. In fact, I can hardly move around the garage. My tools are scattered throughout the vehicle. I gotta clean this up before moving on and finally getting this whole wiring harness and interior removed. One last piece of the wiring harness to go. Just one. Some sunroof wiring. Wire. This one I thought I was done. The gift that keeps on giving. All right, let's try this again. 8th time is the charm. There goes 100 pounds from the car. Hey, there's the wrench I was missing. There's the other wrench. And everything else. Sheesh. This jumbled up mess of wires was about 2 weeks worth of work. That's why videos have been delayed. It took a long time to get this far. And also, look at the mess I've created. Almost my whole downstairs is taken up by the mostly interior of the 997. Plus a couple body panels too. I gotta get this thing done ASAP. Well, sadly, as much fun as that was, I have to do even more of it because there's still more wiring in the car. There's wiring to the rear, there's wiring in the engine bay, there's just wiring everywhere. But this is the main bulk of it. I'm glad to have it out. Time to swap it into the orange car.